I bought this 1996 Honda Civic EJ2 Coupe as a bit of an impulse, as it's one of my attainable dream cars. Although, my dream Civic had to have a B-Series engine. We've got a B-Series. So again, on impulse, I purchased this B20 VTEC setup. We have a full video installing this setup, but we ran into some issues when it refused to go into gear. I had already rebuilt what I could of the linkage system, then even went on to replacing the linkages themselves, but the issue still remained. We then realised the gearbox needed to come back off so we could see if everything was okay internally. When the box was removed, we noticed the brand new release bearing was worn and felt a bit stiff. We then moved on to the clutch, as some people advised we may have put the friction plate in the wrong way round, but that was installed correctly. However, I did notice on the pressure plate there were wear marks on the fingers, bearing in mind the car had done no more than idle for a few minutes with this clutch system installed. I installed a new release bearing just to be on the safe side, but after reinstalling everything, the car would still not go into gear. After a few adjustments of the master cylinder, it finally decided to go into gears. With the car now running, it's time to do some important maintenance items, some of which I've never done before. Camshaft seals, crankshaft seal, timing belt, water pump.
What could possibly go wrong?
You'll see later on by making a simple mistake, I genuinely almost ruined my new engine. Now, you are very optimistic on this.
I am. I just said no. I reckon about 35 minutes we'll have it done.
You done said it now.
Yeah.
So, just for reference, it's very late.
Yeah, but we can edit this.
That's very true.
So where are we going to start? What are we going to do? What's the plan of attack?
So, first of all, I should probably run through what we've got. So, like I said, we've had this thing up and running. Thankfully, I've driven it up and down the road. I can't remember if I told you. It does go into all gears and it works.
Well, I've seen it on the first drive. When you
It's been a long day. Yeah, so but the main thing we noticed even when it was running was make a howling noise, which is why we think
it's a werewolf.
I was going to say it's not a werewolf. Don't panic, guys. We assume, because the only thing left is the water pump. So, Ina, or INA, I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm a big fan of these. Yes. I've never had any issues with them.
Yep.
So, we've gone for a water pump, timing belt kit, 2 belts, but I'm assuming one of them must be for power steering. So we haven't got to worry about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, you got a spare one.
Yeah, and that is the power steering sort of delete loop kit. And this is interesting because people say if you've got a non-power steering rack, then it's great, it feels great. But if you take a power steering rack and then like depower it,
that's what you got.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. What are we gonna
do? I genuinely have no idea where we're going to start. What we're going to do. I knew how long.
Rock it off first. Get this rocket off.
Right, for God's sake, put it down. Let's start with the smaller tools. One step at a time. Disconnect the battery, because that's just always a good place to start.
I'm assuming it's not actually on properly, because it's you.
Right, rocker cover. See if that comes off. We started by taking the rocker cover off. Take note of Kenny removing this earth strap. The rocker cover is held on with a few nuts, so it came off pretty easy. Fortunately, the front bumper was barely held on, so that came off easily enough as well. 90s Civics have a specific, very accessible jacking point at the front. Why can't every car have this? No idea why it looks like I'm trying to row a boat here, but quickly enough the car was up in the air. Even the jack's had enough.
Yeah, I'm sick of lifting this damn Civic up.
On the previous video of the Civic, I gotta see, some of you guys are so eagle-eyed. Someone commented saying, just to let you know, you've got directional tyres on it and one of them's the wrong way. Fair play to I know they're the wrong way around, but well done for spotting that.
Yeah, it was just, like you said, these ain't even for this car, are they? But I know you do want to use them, but you literally just threw them on to move around.
Drove it up the road and it's like, bang, like a one-man band.
Wait a you just rub it up and I just noticed something. Something to tell me?
Told you, man. This is why I invited you here. I did have an ulterior motive. So for people that have never done anything like this before,
like us,
you will have basically. So where it says up and it's pointing down, that's obviously not supposed to be like that. So top dead center is where your piston is right at the top, and basically when you're timing an engine, that is what is the easiest one to go off, sort of thing when you're timing.
Top dead center, piston one up the top.
Up top, and then you'll have a mark on the crank as well that you need to line up. So that is what we're going to do.
We should have a mark on the crank.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, we still got the plugs in as well, so we've probably got a bit of compression here. Oh, there it goes.
At least it's got compression. That's a good sign. So what I'm doing here is rotating the engine via the crank pulley to get it to top dead center. I guess. So, what we were on about before, cams are both pointing up, where they say up now, and they're a timing out. You probably won't be able to see, but
Give me the
take
torch.
our word.
Give me the blinding torch.
Yeah, don't look straight into it.
Yeah. Hang on a sec, where the hell's the button for it? Modern technology. I just blinded everyone. I'm sorry, people. Right, I can't even see where they are now. So, I'm hoping you guys can see that. There's 3 marks here, just by my finger. And then, for some reason, they've gone... There's 3 marks there, and we'll just put another one in as the timing mark. Yeah, so you ignore those 3. You've got to make sure they're there. And then you've got this little notch in the bottom of the timing cover. Sorry, this sticky out bit. And then you've got a little tiny notch there. So now we know that this engine is TDC.
So that is where we want to lock it.
So, yeah.
Although I don't know why we're locking it, because we're taking the cams off.
I know, but we'll just lock it now while we take the pulley off. It's just safety, security. I'd rather lock them just to be on the safe side, because you've also got to crack these off.
True.
So just by locking them, it will help.
Every engine will be different, but this is the locking tool for this one. It should, literally, Well,
I know, mine was like, oh, they should, and it didn't. Locking tool's in.
It's not about the size of the hammer, guys.
It's the nail you're throwing it at. Would help if you actually did it.
Oh, the pulley, right, okay, now I get it.
Give me the big hammer, I'll show you how to do now.
At this point, I'm trying to get the crank pulley itself off the engine. I have no idea why I thought hitting it with a Fisher-Price copper hammer was going to work. I did end up using a pry bar.
What the? What?
That's not what you want to see, is it?
These nuts? Where did that come from?
Really
That was behind the thing. Well, that was probably the noise. Yay! So does that only go on one way anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, because of the
notch
key.
on it, yeah. Ruff. The ruff key. So yeah,
that's why you don't put too much pressure on a pulley.
You damn it.
With the crank pulley out of the way, we could remove the lower timing cover to reveal the crank gear thing. We could then release the tension from the tensioner to remove the timing belt completely, but not before I got brutally attacked. Ow!
Ah! Sorry.
Hit me right in the friggin' eyebrow. Once I recovered, the belt came off nicely. The condition of the belt was actually quite decent, but timing belts are one thing you don't want to mess around with. It's always worth comparing the old belt to the new to make sure they're the same. It's always worth replacing the timing belt tensioner when replacing the belt, because if you lose tension, you lose timing, and if you lose timing, you lose your engine. The crank gear thing was way more difficult to remove than I thought it would be. Luckily, I ordered a puller set which made things easier. This is the part I was dreading, the crankshaft seal. This is always worth changing while you're in there, because look how much work it is just to get access to it. But it is a bit of a pig to replace. I used the old screw in a screw and pull it out technique, and although risky, it seemed to work. This was satisfying. Kenny was up top renewing the camshaft seals, then I swooped in with my man-sized copper hammer to finish the job. Man, I do love brake cleaner. With the seals installed, we moved on to the water pump, then once again forgot to grab something to catch the coolant. Ah man, not again. Man. Good thinking, kids. I'm sat editing this video now, and I've realised I've lost a lot of footage. A lot of footage, and a lot of it that makes this video quite dramatic, and stuff I was really looking forward to you guys seeing. First of all was the power steering loop delete kit, which all went straight forward, and the dynamics of it are pretty straightforward. You're just looping the feed and return line, so that was all good. But what I'm gutted about was the all-important first start, and as we went to start it, turned the key, and the starter motor was just clicking, so I thought battery issue. Turns out it wasn't a battery issue. I removed the starter motor just to see if that was all working. That was all fine, and as I started prodding around with the multimeter, I asked Georgia to hold the ignition on, and genuinely the smoke started coming from the engine. So it turned out, remember I said earlier on in the video to note Kenny removing the earth strap? Turns out he didn't put it back on the right way, and through my limited knowledge of how electricity works, I'm guessing because it wasn't earthed properly, it was like arcing out on the first thing it could and just getting really hot. So we sorted that. Then there was the all-important first start itself, which in fairness was quite drama-free. A lot of emotions, but yet it did actually work. Then it was going to get the car to the alignment, and that's when we had the issues. I was on the 4232, which is a dual carriageway, and I noticed the temperature just started rising and rising. And for those that know the 4232, I was on like the bridge part, so there's no way to pull over. So I was stuck for a bit, struggling, and then I pulled over and I had some shots of me in like the hatched area with my bonnet open like an absolute melon. But I actually checked the levels, or what I thought was the levels, and there was a bit of an issue with that. I'll explain in a bit. And I was in Asda car park, and there was just a lot of footage of me running back and forth Asda with coolant, trying to bleed it. And that's where we'll head back, I think. So, first drive in the Civic, and going to get the alignment done because I'm dropping it down to Boneyard Fabrications tonight, and just let it go. And notice I didn't have any heaters, so I should have been curious of that, but the heat, I've dropped it, but now the temperature is going through the roof. And then I just thought, stupid me, rushing, when we did all of that work, obviously the coolant dropped out water pump, I haven't bled it since. Which is annoying because I checked the coolant level, not even thinking. But the only thing I can think is that there's a massive airlock in there, so I'm going to have to try and let it cool down. See, water pump's there, still there, it's good. Let it cool down, try and get that off, and just try and bleed it in the middle of Asda car park. Ah, don't rush when you're doing cars, guys. It then occurred to me I hadn't just forgot to bleed the coolant, I forgot to top it up full stop after losing it all from the water pump removal. Despite checking the level here, where it clearly looks like it's on max, turns out it was a coolant stain and the reservoir was empty. I literally nearly cooked my new engine. I lost a fair few clips of me running back and forth to Asda for coolant and bleeding the car in the car park, but we finally got somewhere. After many hours and many litres of coolant, she's finally burped. I finally got heat coming through the heaters. I checked all the heater hoses, obviously because I'm not on an incline, it did not want to bleed. That was a really stupid mistake by me. I am human. The issue is, because it's been going on for so long, all the different things we've done with this car just slipped my mind. I'm not even going to make excuses. So I got to take it now, and I've driven it up and down a few times before this big burp just then, and as soon as you start moving it overheats. So, well, the temperature climbs up, so I'm going to drive it around here now, and hope to God that temperature stays right. Finally feeling confident, I hit the road and headed to Boneyard Fabrications. I completely missed my chance to get the alignment done, but I remembered a cool feature this car now has. There's a whole lot of steam. I really hope that's just excess. The Civic made it down to Dye. We let him crack on for a day or two, then visited for an update. We left Dye. The original plan was for me to use those cheap seats I bought from Stu, or the brand new black version of that, the BB Classics one. After chatting with Dye, I got a bit carried away. I thought if he's making us custom seat frames and we're going to be doing a lot of miles in this car, like I said, we've got a European road trip planned that's at least 2,200 miles. We want them to be comfortable, so I got a bit carried away and ordered these Sparco R500 bucket seats. So we are back on our way down to Dye to drop them off so we can start mocking them up, and he's going to be putting the sliders in as well, so they're going to be adjustable seats, which is a biggie for me. But the amazing thing is he's already started, as soon as we left, he'd already sent me CAD designs and he's already started doing the metal work. So not only are we going to drop some bits off, we'll actually have a bit of an update as well, which I'm really, really looking forward to. I said I use my cars as vans. This is why I bought. I just realised I don't know if I've released that car yet, so I've probably blurred that. But I bought, just forget it. Anyway, yeah, I use my cars as vans.
The seat's in there somewhere.
It's buried in here somewhere, I swear. Tim, man. That's how the professionals do it, see.
Am I going to help?
Yeah, you're the camera woman today, it's fine. That's usually my excuse.
Bye!
Ignore me. Right, you can tell where we are now. We are with Dye at Boneyard Fabrication. Now, I love this. We saw this in the dark, seen it in person. I love that colour spec. But this is the reason we're here. And it's always scary when you see a car with its butt up in the air. So Dye he sent me a couple of update photos. Now, like I said, in fairness to him, we dropped it off late at night, and by the time we'd got home, we'd already made a start on it and designing seat frames and stuff like that. Oh, this is the first time I've seen this car with the rear bumper off. It is something I wanted to do because it looked pretty clean, and even Dye said it's there's no issues at all under there, which is a massive relief. A bit of crust there, which I'm sure we can sort. But yeah, so he mentioned he started hacking away at the arches, which he said was his first port of call because it looked like it was full of filler. And he was right. I was expecting some dodgy repairs on this, and it didn't disappoint. But look at that. He's already cutting all the stuff out. It's a weird position to see your car in, but I'm so excited. You know it's in the right place. Another piece you guys will remember, the ugly looking repair. It was pretty solid, but it just didn't look, oh my God. This is a scary state to see your car in. And I love how I can look at that and be like, yeah, I can fix all that. So that's cut out completely. Like I said, it did look solid, but I just wanted it all to look good and make sure it's solid. That's the Civic. All dropped off. All the madness sorted. That was me almost blowing the Civic up. Thankfully, it still seems okay. I should have checked the coolant while we were there. But yeah, so the exciting thing is now it is up and running. Purely because of the time schedule, I didn't have a chance to wire in the VTEC. I haven't even checked to see if that wire's right. So that's going to be the next one. I think we'll do that as like a first drive. And when we collect that, collect the car back, it's going to have the sparkle seat installed. And then I have no idea what's going to be next because we've got like a million things going on. But if you've made it this far in the video, know that I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you're enjoying the Civic content. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We will see you in the next one. I'm too scared to say boom because we got very close this time.